Maybe that's why they were on TikTok. They wanted to compete to see who was the best dancer in tights. I don't know. Maybe that was the reason why they did it. You know, if that was the case, okay.
Rich Rodriguez can't quit talking about TikTok. You also can't quit talking about this roster, and something's got to give.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up? Welcome again, guys. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. This is Locked On West Virginia. Thanks for joining in, guys. Appreciate you for being here. One day after we hired our new men's basketball coach, let's talk some football for once, right? We can talk basketball in segment 3, but let's talk some football, some freaking football. You remember when Bobby Boucher showed up at halftime in the Bladen Bowl? Remember that? So, I got to thinking about it, and somebody critiquing me in the comments already. Maybe slams the roster is not the best way to put the thumbnail, right? But I do think there are a lot of concerns, and this is what we're going to talk about, obviously, in this episode. And thank you guys for joining, being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network here. We talk about your team every single day. I appreciate you guys. You guys have been so supportive. We did a lot of numbers over that coaching search, a lot, tens and tens and tens of thousands of views. So couldn't have done it without you guys being interested and focused in on just what I think was a really, really unique coaching search. So I do think that it's okay to panic a little bit, because some of the things Rich Rod's saying they're not good things. I mean, you can say what you want. You can say they want to motivate the roster if you want to, but I didn't want to see Rich Rod come to the press conference today and say this. And by the way, thank you to Mike Ostie for that clip in the beginning of Rich Rod. Really thankful to him for that. He always does such a good job of letting us use his clips and everything. And, as long as he gets his credit for it, which is fair, if he's going to let us use it. Listen to this clip. This is how he started the press conference, and then we'll stop playing clips. I just personally, things like this kind of bother me, y'all. They really do. Maybe I'm in the minority. I don't know.
All right. I don't know what practice it was. I don't think we got better today, but a lot of work. Did a lot of 2-minute drill situations at the end of the game. Try to make our guys aware of the down and distance. And the fine media folks, who are you with? Are you independent or?
You start in the summertime.
Oh, it's my it's another guy in a different color.
I think it's right here too.
I mean, it'll bother me till
here it is.
It'll bother you as a coach, and I know about one-on-ones, whatever it is. I'm not saying it's the end of the world if you lose a rep, because everybody's going to lose a rep, but it ought to bother you a little bit. It ought to bother you as a coach. And I know it bothers coaches, but it bothers the hell out of me. I mean, it'll bother me till the next practice. I mean,
and he's been saying things like this all spring long. I've listened to every word of every press conference that Rich Rod has done since he's been at West Virginia. And so a few different things I want to key on. And I have every note from the press conference, and maybe I should start with that as bullet points. Obviously an ugly practice today, and we don't want to get caught in the vacuum of everything's so bad because of today's practice. But this has been an ongoing thing, in my opinion, with Rich Rod, and talking about lack of effort a little bit here and there. Certain players, I think he's trying to continually motivate players. And obviously it's early on. You want to ingratiate people in as quickly as possible, but also as quickly as possible. And I think it's not going so quick, Just going to say, I don't think it's going so quick for Rich Rod here. And you forget it's year one, spring practice 1. But man, I have so many thoughts running through my head. I'm trying to get them organized. He said they need offensive linemen, defensive linemen, kickers, linebackers, running backers, wide receivers. Guys, you don't say that unless you need it. He's not lying. We need linebackers. We need defensive linemen. We need offensive linemen. We need running backs. We need wide receivers. The only thing we don't need is quarterbacks. And we've already added the most players to the roster in any team in the country. Our expectations for year one are probably too high. Maybe I am knee-jerk reacting. Maybe I am. And fine if I am. I'll come back down to earth. I also had a knee-jerk reaction to something else. I feel like maybe I'm wrong at Rodney Gallagher now that I've seen how he looks. He's buff, man. Rodney Gallagher looks like a running back. And, if his father's ever watches this show again, I want him to prove me wrong. I do. But so, after I heard the press conference today, I reached out to a few people because I thought, well, I'm probably overreacting, right? Rich Rod obviously is he's high strung as all get out. And watching Rodney Gallagher's press conference made me feel a lot better. Reed Carrico's the other day made me feel a lot better. But they're players. They're more in the moment, right? Rich is going to think way bigger picture. So I reached out to a few people, obviously. Reached out to my normal suspects, right, in the locker room and kind of got a feel for it. And it's been bad at times. It's been bad. There are some positional, places of positional weakness, especially once you get beyond the first team. Guys, we're not going to win a lot of games if that's the way it is. We have to figure out a way to build some depth on this team. And I just don't know if you can both. We got to drop down to 105. So we're going to cut. I think Rich Rod said something like 20 walk-ons. And like he said, I was a walk-on. I played. I started eventually because I was a walk-on and made my way up the depth chart. So a really good player could get cut, right? But not only that, it's this whole thing with the portal and how many players were added to this roster. Guys, if you go look at what Indiana added in year one, it ain't what we've already added. And we've got to get at least a dozen more players from what I can see. We probably need at least 2 more offensive linemen. We probably need at least 2 more wide receivers, at least 1 more running back, probably at least 2 more linebackers, at least 3 or 4 more corners. I'm talking corners, not safeties. So there's a lot of new here, and I just don't know how far you can go in year one with that much new on a team. 30, 40, okay. You can work that in, and you'll go through some growing pains. Guys, we have the most in the country. Let me see if I have this graphic still. Might not be able to find it because it's on my computer, and I don't know what it's under. There's no way for me to find it. I need to start labeling stuff instead of just hitting a bunch of buttons on the keyboard and hitting save. Oh, man, that's not good, is it? Let's see. Most portal additions in football. I'm pretty sure there. Let's see if I can find that graphic again. I doubt it, but you never know. Well, it's not on here, but West Virginia was number 1 at 59, I think it was. Another Big 12 team might have been Texas Tech or Cincinnati, one of them two, I think, at 53. I'll find this in between now and another episode or something, and I'll reference it again. But by the time it's all said and done, you're going to probably be in the neighborhood of 80 to 85% transfer. That's just too much for a year. It's too much in year one, and to have the expectations that I think for whatever reason, I just told myself, like, it's Rich Rod. He's coming back and we're just going to win right away, and I have to tell myself, Jacksonville State started off 0-3. They had a similar turnover, right? I think they turned over probably 50 guys last year. I think it's the number I saw. That's a lot. That's 9 less than what we have so far, and we'll probably do a dozen more. And so They did that. They started off 0-3, and then they just didn't lose another game until they were in the conference championship game, right? Or leading up to the conference championship game. I think they may have lost 2 down the stretch. But either way, they won 8 in a row, put themselves in position. And I just, we're not going to have that opportunity. Obviously, we play an easier first game. But then we go to Ohio, who is a team that in any past 3 years, in any indication at all, they can beat us. They can absolutely beat us. And then you got Pitt in the backyard brawl. Is this team going to be ready to play Pitt? Is this team going to be ready to face a gauntlet of a Big 12 schedule? I have concerns. I have worries. I have fears, actually. I really do. There are some people who've already made up their mind on Rich Rod, and then there's a second tier of those people that are only going to give him the 1 year. If he screws it up in year one, or if this team doesn't win in year one, if he has a similar year one to his first go around, they're going to be out on him, fair or not. And that includes some donors, right? So if Rich Rod pulls this off, it'll be way better than Neil's coaching job, in my opinion. I think it'll be a much better job than Neil's when we won 9 games. Anything over 7 is gravy this year. It's just we haven't added. I mean, Jamori Robinson's great. Michael Coach Jr. is great. Outside those guys, in my opinion, there's a couple other guys that I could mention. Obviously, the Colorado State linebackers one. There's a few others, but we haven't added these big time game changing players yet. Maybe we will add some in the spring. Maybe Rich Rod's like, screw it, we got to. I don't know. I think we have a couple people that could. Jalen Henderson could end up being a great player. I don't know. Maybe Nico could be. I don't know. Jaden Bray, he could come in from last year and be something great. There are examples, but we need the ones that are examples to hit. We need them to hit, guys. Let's go to break. On the other side, I'm going to talk about Rodney Gallagher's press conference a little bit. It really opened my eyes because I don't think he did it on purpose. He didn't do this on purpose. But there was a lot of shade thrown at Neil Brown based on off what Rodney Gallagher said in his press conference. You'll want to hear that next. Guys, this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's always easy to lose track, and that's where Monarch Money does come in, guys. They're your personal CFO to give you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. They're a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, spending in one place, so you just stop managing your money and start building your wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps like a lot of us do, you can use Monarch Money to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use Locked On College at monarchmoney.com for 50% off the first year. That's monarchmoney.com/LockedOnCollege for half off your first year. Do it now. Do it today. It's segment 2. We've got to do. We deserve the do today. We deserve the do. The lovely do. We deserve it because today's been a good day. Overall. Unfortunately, with Locked On, somehow, I don't know what happened. My direct deposit got screwed up. So now the check's coming in the mail instead. And it's a good check, guys. But, yeah, so unfortunately, that's like the negative of the day. It's kind of hovered over my day. But getting to talk to y'all, hey, pretty good. You know, that's a pretty good way to end the day, I guess you could say. And I disagree with what some people said in the comments. Definitely not exaggerated jest. Rich Rod is the straightest shooter ever. Like, He doesn't say much in jest. He does, but no. And look, like I said, I checked in with people on the roster that agree. So, I mean, I've sourced it out. There are definitely people that say that this roster is definitely lacking in some areas, and we're going to add. I promise you, we will add several bodies in spring, in the summer. I call it the spring, whatever, for whatever reason, in the summer period. So let's talk Rodney Gallagher. His press conference was insane, man. It really was. First of all, I want to say very proud of Rodney Gallagher and the man he's become since he's been in Morgantown. Really glad to have him as a student athlete in our state and at our university. Very proud of the way he's handled himself, and all that. I think he's done an incredible job. And I mean, the fact that they let him speak at the press conference today obviously says something. It's definitely an indicator that maybe he's winning the job where he's at, or he's one of the leaders on the team, however you want to put it. And so he's off to a good start, proving me wrong about Man Singleton, which maybe Man will start at another position, and I just had it wrong from that perspective. Like maybe Rodney starts, but so does Man in the other slot. That could be it too. I still think that Oron Singleton or Man Singleton, whatever you want to call him, is going to have a huge impact on this year's team. That's just my opinion. Returning punts, returning kicks, and in the slot, and maybe he'll be out wide some. I don't know, but so Rodney Gallagher said some things today in his press conference, guys, that really made Neil kind of look bad, and he didn't know it until Rich Rod got here. And these are his words. The very thing this team lacked was a hard edge. Even though he didn't say it, this is what we were lacking. And that directly points the finger at Neil Brown. He talked about how Coach Rod is really hard on people. It's just that I think he was shocked. And you could tell he's pretty shocked at the stark difference between the way Neil Brown coaches ball, which is more of a I'm your buddy, kind of I don't want to say coddling. It's a negative word, and I don't like to use that with grown men, but more of a somebody might have a better word than me, but I think the word that comes to mind for me is lack of accountability on a Rich Rod level. So like the way Rich Rod does things is, you spot it, we take care of it now, right? In practice right now, if you screw up, we're stopping practice and we're fixing the thing you did. Some people say we fix it later in the film room, or we pull you the player to the side. Practice keeps going, right? Rich Rod don't work that way. He pulls you right then and there. Maybe practice keeps going, but you're getting yelled at in front of everybody. And that's not something that Neil Brown did, I'm told. So that's a big difference. It's accountability, guys, and it's embarrassing people in front of their peers. Not everybody's going to agree with it. Not everybody's going to react to it the way that they probably should, or because I was the kind of person, if you did that to me, while it would make me play harder, it would cause me to internally, I would have this really bad dialogue with myself, calling myself these names, you piece of crap, can't do things right, that kind of thing. So that's the only part of that worries me, is I think there are some people that will be really extra hard on themselves. I was one of those people, still am really hard on myself, so I don't know how they deal with that, but I mean, at the end of the day, that's on you, right? If I hold you accountable for something and you beat yourself to death over it, well, that's on you, right? At the end of the day, I can't really take accountability for every person I correct. So I'm a big I statements person too. So a lot of times I don't mean you specifically, obviously. So anyways, and some other stuff that Rodney talked about was this hard edge. He brought it up multiple times in his press conference, having this hard edge. This is something we didn't have before. That statement speaks volumes about the last regime and the way they did things. And I do think that while the offensive line had it, absolutely our offensive line had it, but that was because of the players, not because of the coaching, in my opinion. Now, Matt Moore may have a hard edge to him. I wouldn't doubt it if he did. As a matter of fact, I'm sure he probably kind of does. All the coaches that we had, I would say that Matt Moore probably kind of had that air about him. Zach Frazier, Wyatt Milam, Doug Nestor, absolutely hard edge players, unfortunately in a different era under Rich Rod. So, I think that was eye-opening for me today to hear Rodney say that stuff. And we have to give this team some more leeway, right? So, because sometimes I'll get on here and talk. Sometimes in the moment, I'll have these, not epiphanies, but like, these light bulb kind of moments. Like here I am kind of freaking out over what Rich Rod said. At the same time, I'm thinking, well, but Neil Brown and Rich Rod are such stark contrast to one another. Of course, there's going to be a huge adjustment period. So, I don't know, guys. I just think him saying we need to add all those players and me confirming with some other people that's a thing. We need some depth. We've got some pretty good starters, but the depth pieces are missing. We'll see what happens there. I'm not sure. Do you go after starters and let them battle it out, or do you go after depth pieces and that's what they are? I'm glad I'm not in Rich Rod's shoes to have to figure that out, because that'd be kind of a tough decision, right? What do you do? It's a good question. Do you go after starters? Do you go after depth? Both. They're going to have to figure that out, guys. Penny Hardaway talked about our new head coach today, and I have a thought, and it's like, are they trying to sell us Coach Hodge too much here? We'll talk about that next.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
And this episode of Locked On West Virginia is going to be brought to you by Nissan. Of course, we love Nissan around here. We're all about the stats because the numbers never lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds and could quite literally Javon Small the whole team, or carry the whole team, plus the gear wherever you go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for the big cruise, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're off exploring off-roads, going on trails, or rolling up to the Coliseum, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights with the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more about it today at nissanusa.com. All right, guys, thank you for joining me on this episode. It's been a fun one. If you're new around here, all I ask is that you hit that subscribe button so that you can be caught up. I stream 7 days a week, sometimes multiple times a day. I think, I don't know how many times did we stream this last week, guys. Probably, let's see, in a week, I'd say we probably went at least 15 to 18 times this past week. So not too bad. Especially, I'm supposed to stream 5 days a week. I do 7. And a lot of times I do multiple times a day, just because I want to keep you guys as informed as possible. And I have opinions, and I want to get them out there. This is my passion. So, so let's talk Ross Hodge. By the way, I have some merch ideas, and I want to run these by you really quick about Ross Hodge. What do you guys think about Do you guys remember the old Marshall Thundering Herd slogan? I've got a herd on. What about I've got a Hodge on? Do you have a Hodge on? Or what about I'm going Hodge wild? Is that okay? So there's a couple others I think that are out there that are pretty fun. I definitely like Hodge on. I definitely like Hodge wild. Going Hodge wild is pretty good. There's a couple others out there, but I would love to put those on a shirt or a hat, right? Hodge wild, and then have Coach Hodge on there or something. Be kind of fun. Maybe give it some to NIL, or I don't know. There's a lot of different ways we could take it to help support. If you would be interested in doing something like that, if I made some merch up, and we just covered the cost of whatever it takes to pay for the merch, and then gave the rest to NIL, and then I would show receipts, proof like, hey, this is what it's going towards or whatever, is that something you guys would be interested in? I think that would be fun, and it would be a way for us here at this show to support the team, right? And if it really blew up, we could do some pretty big numbers, right? We can maybe even do enough to get a whole player, like a good player. You never know. Something to think about. All right, guys. So let's pull this up here. This is something I saw right before I came on earlier, obviously, and kind of gave me a thought. Let's see if we can. I don't know if this is going to play or what here. I actually haven't heard it yet. So let's see what this is really quick. I guess it's just a video. So this is a quote from Penny Hardaway, the Memphis head coach. Ross is definitely one of my favorite coaches in the country. He is the next big-time coach to take West Virginia back to the glory days of winning and playing in NCAA tournaments. He's arguably one of the best in the country defensively, and his teams will always be a hard out. They are relentless in their efforts for 40 minutes. It's one of the hardest teams that I've ever had to coach against because they're so tough. I think that's great. I truly do. But right. There's a lot of media out here about Coach Hodge, right? I mean, you got this video here that's 2 minutes long about Ross Hodge. You've got this statement. You've got the other statement by Ren Baker here. You've got what else is there out here? Obviously, you've got a couple other coaches. We had Scott Drew. I just did a show on it. You think I'd remember Fran Fraschilla. Who else? There's a few others. Dusty May, all in big. Well, I mean, if I just keep going down, you'd think I'd eventually find them, but I guess it's a lot to get through. But yeah, multiple coaches, right? Multiple big time coaches have come out and said these things about Ross Hodge. And, while I think it's awesome, I got a question for you guys, man. Does it feel like they're trying to sell us a dream here a little bit? Does it feel like it's being overdone a little bit? You think Ren Baker's kind of going out of his way to oversell this? Somebody asked me that question earlier, and I said, you know what? That's a good question. I'll ask it on the show. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm asking a question. What do you guys think? You guys are smarter than me. What do you all think? Let me know down in the comments below. Do you think they're trying to oversell Ross Hodge to us, guys? Because it's obviously an unpopular hire. It's obviously the donors have had, to say the very least, right, some issues with this hire we are hearing, and that's a whole other show I was going to go into. I don't know how much money they're going to get, guys. There's a lot of people that are upset over the hire, so I think it makes sense for them to roll out all these comments from all these coaches. But at the same time, I think people are smart enough to realize this what you're doing, right? You're trying to prove that this wasn't a bad hire. I think he's going to do that himself. I'm sold on the hire. I don't think it was the best one we could have made, but I think it's got the most upside of all the coaches that we hired, for sure. Like, you could have hired a Pitino, and that had a ton of name power and probably would have brought some money. You could have hired Ben McCollum, and that would have been obviously the best hire. But I would argue, because Ben McCollum is so old school in the way he does things, kind of like Rich Rod, I don't know how much he's going to embrace the portal 100%, or they just go after all these great players because he's so picky about who comes in. That was my biggest – that's actually, I was going to do a show on this if McCollum was our guy. A couple of things I've heard – he said it multiple times in different press conferences. They don't just go after anybody. They have to fit. It can't be they don't like these dynamic personalities necessarily. I think he likes people that will conform. And McCollum, I think, may have an issue in the portal era. We'll see. That's the only critique of him, though. That's it. That's literally it. Nothing else I can say bad, really. This guy here, way different. Ross Hodge, he does the gritty in the locker room with the guys, which is a popular dance. Ross Hodge is a guy that relates to young players, right? And you heard Grant McCaslin say it, that he has the emotional intelligence to coach in this landscape. That's a big statement. Emotional intelligence it's not something everybody has, right? So I think that, it's going to be a hire it's going to have its detractors, right? But I think for me, like he said, he's got the emotional intelligence. He's got the acumen based off of his defensive knowledge. He's got some of the results, although he hasn't beat any ranked teams. I tell people this. He's only had 2 seasons. If you go look at Darren DeBree's resume after 2 years at D1, he hadn't beaten any ranked teams yet. Go look at Huggs at Akron. Had he beaten any ranked teams yet at Akron in 2 years? I would venture to say probably not, if maybe one. But it's not that big of a – people try to make it a big deal. It's not as big a deal as you think it is. Will we like him to have some ranked wins coming in here? Absolutely. Do you play a lot of ranked teams at that level anyway? Not really, no. You might play 2 or 3 a year. So it's like you get a bunch of opportunities. Non-con, maybe you get some, but I don't know. I just found that to be a silly kind of argument against him. People keep focusing on it. So, and like I said, whenever I heard him use the term emotional intelligence, which is basically the ability to understand, you're able to manage your own emotions. It's that you're able to release stress, communicate pretty effective. It's good stuff. And basically, and another good thing about it is they're really good with conflict, right? They're able to be mediator. So that, there's a lot of good stuff that comes along with that. So anyway, get off the emotional intelligence here. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Like I said, judgment's out on both these hires. Rim Baker's going to be connected to Rich Rod. He's going to be connected to Ross Hodge. And we'll know inside of 3 years what's going to happen with Rim Baker and these coaches, probably inside of 3 years, maybe 4. Hopefully we're back to the tournament and closer to the playoff. Maybe we've been to the playoff by then. That would be amazing. God, you talk about amazing. All right, guys, that's all I got. I appreciate you for joining. Hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video, please. You just move your thumb and that mouse clicker over just there. It's an inch, right? And that's all I really got for you. I had a good time on this one. Sorry it was a little bit later than usual. For those of you asking about moderator, if you're a part of my Discord, which let me try to, I don't know, Raven, you're in here. Can you get a link for the Discord, Raven, and put it in the chat for me? I don't know if you have time. I'll try to talk for the next 60 seconds. If you even know how to do it, or somebody that's in the Discord, maybe put a link in the chat. But yeah, just to recap really quick, I think the Rich Rod comments, even though I'm a little panicked over them, I think they're a big deal. I still worry about how many players we've added to this roster, like I said. The Rodney Gallagher comments, I felt like threw shade at Neil Brown based off of, we've never had this hard edge thing before. We never had a coach preach this way before. The things he said, like, we got a hard edge now. We didn't before. That's like, the question was, what's the difference between this coach and the last coach? He said, the hard edge. That's what his answer was. I thought, holy cow, man. This guy's absolutely crushed by saying that. Thank you, Raven. So the Discord is in the chat here. I appreciate you for doing that, Raven. Guys, click that. Join the Discord. It's free for now. I'm not going to make it paid till football season, and even then, you'll still have the regular Discord. There'll just be another version. Or maybe I'll wait till the portal opens up for football again. That way we can get that info going. I don't know. Basketball's coming up. I'll make a decision. We'll always have info on the Discord for you. And that's all I really got, guys. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We talk about your team every single day. If you want to be a mod, hit me up in the Discord right after the show, and we'll talk about it. Other than that, that's all I got, guys. Have a great day. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. It's coming up. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'm out of here.